Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hey, y'all. How y'all doing?
She got a little pep in her step.
Yeah. You feeling good? Yeah.
Feel good.
Feeling good? Smelling good? Look good?
I do smell good.
Hey. This is Miguel and Holly Uncensored, our off-air podcast. We do 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Check out our other podcast, Miguel and Holly Full Show Podcast, Miguel and Holly Shoot Your Shot, Queen City Confessions, whatever it is. And it would really help if you told at least one person.
Yeah, tell a friend.
Yeah. So like this week, however you listen, if it's on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, wherever, just send the podcast to one person. Just think about it. And then if we all just send it, and even us, Holly, Kelvin, one of your friends, send it to one person. Be like, hey, have you ever spent some time with our podcast? Check it out.
That's awkward.
It's not.
Because it's mine. It's my podcast. And
listen.
I'm going to send it to people I have not talked about on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's a very short list.
Well, that's fine.
Right. But just send it. Because listen, we always say that we should be encouraging our friends. We encourage people to encourage their friends. We should do it for ourselves because we're human beings that got a job, that got bills to pay. So send it to somebody, one person, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Quick question. We were talking about this right before we started, and I was saying, do you acknowledge your last name publicly, Kelvin?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I was calling you by your last name, which is not live.
It is not.
Not live? Wait, your name's not. Your last name is not your government name? Live?
No, it is not.
Kelvin Live.
Kelvin Live.
Hey. And so you said that do you plan on changing your last name to your fiance's when you two get married legally?
I do. So I will be known as Kelvin Cordova.
That is so lovely.
Thank you.
Now, do you plan on changing that like social media, on air? Like, is that going to be your new name?
Maybe I'll put it on Facebook. Maybe, but that's it. But my radio name is Kelvin Live. Like, that won't change. The reason why was because I think one random day, like back in Miami, my boss came in and we were all promoting our social medias, just like our Instagram, like, oh yeah, follow us at Kelvin, blah, blah, blah. And so I think mine was, it's Kelvin Live, and we weren't allowed to promote our social media anymore. And it was super weird. Our boss just busts through the door and she's like, no, we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, we've gotten that directive too sometimes.
We're like, why the fuck? Like, how does that make sense? You don't want your personalities to grow. So I was like, cool. Well, my radio name now is also my Instagram. And so sorry about it. So kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I was promoting my name, which was Kelvin Live, but also my Instagram as well. So
that's always so interesting. And so, Holly, all of your social media is Radio Holly. Have you ever wanted it to be Holly O'Connor?
I guess I wouldn't mind because my Facebook, my public facing Facebook page, like, you know, the one that you would follow and not like be actual friends because I don't maybe know you in real life. That's Holly O'Connor because it used to be like Holly on whatever radio station we were on. And then I got sick of changing it. So I just made it Holly O'Connor. And I wouldn't mind if it was just Holly O'Connor. But I mean, people mess up O'Connor weirdly all the time. And so I feel like Radio Holly is a lot easier to find. But let me tell you, when we got let go from our job in 2012, I went into like this whole who am I spiral. Because if I'm ever not in radio, the fuck?
Right. Radio Holly.
Yeah. So I don't really know.
Mother Holly.
There it is.
Arby's drive-through extraordinaire Holly.
Former Arby's drive-through extraordinaire worker. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that, to be honest with you. And like my last name, I've had more trouble with my last name over the last couple of years. I don't know why, but the apostrophe is just a pain in the ass. And like the amount of people that I will spell my last name for and they'll put ER anyway. And like I'm saying it out loud. I'm like O apostrophe CONNOR, and they're like CONNER, and I'm like, no, it's OR, and they're like, what? And I'm like, it's OR. It's so stupid. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, but like people just feel like it needs an E, and so I don't know. What do you like? I would have had to have already gotten the domains for all of that, and I don't have it.
Right. I
So
mean,
it's kind of a non-issue.
I guess maybe if you look, or maybe like starting it later, or like new social media platforms, pop up, because I don't know if we'll still be using Instagram in 10 years and 15 years, or by that point, who the fuck cares? So it'll be interesting to see.
People do care because I'm supposed to, like, you're supposed to, as a brand, you're supposed to have the same.
Right.
So that's why I was always like the first to snap up Radio Holly on any platform, because that is what I am on every single platform. I have it. That's me. And by the way, if you Google Holly O'Connor, it's largely me. And so Maya's been Googling. And I told her what she can and cannot Google. Thank you very much. But she
Girls Gone Wild.
Holly rides a horse.
It's at school, by the way.
Holly P standing up.
Yeah, that's not the first thing that pops up, thank God.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff about Holly O'Connor. You Google that, you get a lot of stuff.
She luckily doesn't really know how to do a deep dive. She's just on like the main Google page. And so she's like, she had to do something about her family or whatever. So she Googled her dad and like nothing came up. And then she Googled me and she's like, you're like, and she I don't think she wanted to admit this. She's like, you're like kind of all over the place. I'm like, yes, I am.
You're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But it's all my social media. Like, it's my Instagram, it's my Twitter, it's my Facebook. It's all of them right in a row. And then like stuff about us moving to Charlotte and all this stuff and everything else. So I would be like afraid if I just started everything new. Who's gonna find it, whatever. And what if, let's just put on the what if bubble. What if we're not in radio anymore?
Right.
And I am taking like the safe route and I'm like doing voice work or whatever. Or like I open up like a crystal selling shop or something, or I start my own like life coaching practice or whatever. I'm going to have to start fully from scratch then and like build and no one's going to know who Holly O'Connor is or what she stands for. I don't know how to do it. It's a lot. Fuck it.
My friend was on air with Dia, and then when she left to Ticketmaster after radio, she's now off air with Dia. It's just like the funniest thing. So
yeah,
I love that.
I like that. Yeah,
that is cute. Well, that's why I've always been like, Miguel Fuller is my that's my real name. That's my social media. But
you say real name, but it's not.
It's not. Once I got married to Abe, I changed my legal last name to his last name.
Yeah.
Just to have some separation. So like, if maybe one day I'm like done with the public view and I don't want to be on radio, I don't want to be, in the public eye anymore, which what version of Miguel Fuller is that ever going to be?
Yeah.
I can't see it a day, but you never know. Then I could turn it over into my new last name, which is so funny because sort of like you, Holly, whenever now I am somewhere and I do have to give my new last name, I just love okay, first off, what is this last name?
Yeah.
And then their second thought is, but you're Black. And you have an Armenian.
First of all, nobody knows that it's Armenian. Not one single person knows.
They do actually, because people associate because it's Gatakian with Kardashian, and so people actually are like, "Oh, that's Armenian." People have actually, I've been surprised by that because they've been like, "Oh," because then the people who do know. They're like, "Oh, so your family history is Armenian."
And you're like, and they're like, and you,
where does the Miguel come from? ...
I'm like, ha, you'll never know, bitch.
Keep you guessing.
Ha. And so it's always interesting to like sort of see people's reaction. And then people are like, can you just spell that for me? Because I have absolutely no clue. Whereas Fuller, everyone knew how to spell that. No one ever messed that up. But everyone messed up Miguel, though, with a Q, which was always so strange.
McQuell. They still do it.
Even like people in our building.
Yes.
I'm like, you saw my email come in saying Miguel. You saw my email signature. And then they go, thanks, McQuell.
I have never in my life called anybody McQuell.
I know. And the thing is, they don't call you McQuell either. So why would you type it that way? Wait, have you ever been called McQuell in real life? Like the spoken word.
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's ever.
Then why
I think
would
it's a
you?
Q.
Yeah.
Like, are that many people having keyboard issues? Wait, I got to see where the G and the Q are. They're not even near each other.
No.
I would love to speak to a person who puts a Q, and not in a judgy way, because I don't want them to feel like shame about it. But I want to be like, walk me through how the Q happened.
Well, I guess. What's
Do they just think it's
I think that's
Spanish?
how
they
it
don't believe that you're Miguel. They're like, why do you have a Hispanic name?
Right. So they're like, clearly it must be like another ethnic name. It's not Miguel.
Right.
It's Miguel.
Miguel?
Miguel.
And then they hear how your mom says your name.
All right. And then they're really fucked and they're like, Miguel?
Yeah.
What?
So I did type your name with a G-U-W, I think, one time.
Yeah. Oh, what's actually really funny is the radio talkback. So on the iHeartRadio app, I'm trying to make sure this doesn't give away people's information on here. I won't want to do it. So on the program, have you ever seen it, Holly, before? Like what talkback looks like?
I've only ever I have not interacted with it, but I've seen it.
All right, I'm gonna just show you real quick on here for those of you that are watching. Mm-hmm. Present, just so you can see. It gives you the option to where I can read what people have sent. And so for those of you that don't listen to the show, a talkback is on the iHeartRadio app. If you search for Hits 96.1, there's a little microphone and you can leave us up to, I think it's either 27 or 30-second message, voice memo, really. And so here you can see, I can click on this little button right here and then it'll tell me like what it said right there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I do that a lot of times when we're doing contests on the show, just so I can read real quickly.
Yeah, you don't have to actually sit and listen to the whole thing. You can just see like a visual voicemail.
Absolutely. But the way that this program spells my name is different every time.
Oh my God.
So like this one says, "Hi, McKellen."
McKellen.
MCALLEN. This one says, where was the other one recently? MCGIL. Miguel.
That's close. That's not too bad.
It's always so interesting to see how, and I think the most of the time it says Miguel, McGill, MCGILL. So it's always Miguel and Holly.
Miguel and Lorraine. Because somebody thought my name was Lorraine yesterday, and I just wanted to point that out somewhere.
Oh yeah, we never talked about that. And then
you got
Lorraine so offended when the other person called in and you thought that they were saying they were like talking about Heather, and you were like, fuck this shit.
I know.
I was like, no, it's the caller.
I know. And then I was like, oh no, Miguel's mad at me. But I was like, one is comical, but then two in a row, I was like,
that was so bad.
That was what happened, but it wasn't. It was a caller named Heather. Mm-hmm. But see, I do get mistaken for Heathers sometimes. So that's why I was like, that's it. Bye. Because the first guy was like, I agree with Lorraine. I was like, Lorraine.
I was like, I could give you Molly. Like, if you're a new listener.
I get it. And then people have done that.
Right. Especially like when we first started in Charlotte and people were calling in, they'd be like, oh my God, I'm so glad Miguel and Molly are here. And we're like,
I was like,
it's Holly.
I know.
It's fine. It's new. We're new. But I'm like, Lorraine? Like, where? I haven't even heard of a Lorraine on the radio anywhere before. Maybe in like West Virginia.
I was like, what? Are you listening to the right people? Like, he was calling about the right topic. And then I was like, he said it so boldly. I was like, you really thought that's what it was? Why would you think that? The only thing I could think is the L's.
Yes.
Holly, Lorraine.
Why did you guys correct him? That was like my main thing. I was like, stop, correct him.
He was already going. Yeah. He was already, and I was like, it doesn't really matter because we'll just take that out.
Right. Well, and
I feel like it does matter.
Well, so in that instance, we only had 6 minutes to record phone calls and edit them. And I'm like, if we take 30 seconds to correct him and then he's going to feel bad and then we feel bad. And then I'm like, we still got 2 more phone calls. I was like, I ain't got time. Right. Plus, I know I wasn't going to play it anyway. So that's why I was like, it's fine.
Yes.
I do, though, want to talk about, and I should have had this prepared. Holly, do you want to set up the conversation we had yesterday about that Facebook stepmom group, because I do want to talk about the phone call we got from the guy that I didn't play, just because I was like, that takes us into a whole nother conversation that we don't have time for.
Right.
And I did want to spend some time talking about that for a hot second.
So it's a little bit, and this is what I worried about with the error too. I was like, this is a bit of a complex thing, but just here's the simplified down thing. I'm part of this like a stepmom group. And so, which now I'm like, oh God, I don't want people to find me on there. So I probably have to leave the group. But so whatever. And the issue was that I stumbled across a post from somebody else. This woman who was a stepmom was like, my 11, 12-year-old stepdaughter started her period. I provided all of the paraphernalia. I gave, I'm full stocked. I'm like a Walgreens. Like I got pads, I got different types of pads, I got tampons, I got instructions, I got all like whatever, all the stuff. And I gave her this full education. Great, fine, whatever. And then the point of the post is that she was like, so I did all that. And this girl's bio, that's what we call like a stepmom and a bio mom. The bio mom came at me and was like, how dare you give my daughter tampons? I did not want this for her and you're overstepping. And the girl was like, why would she like F this bio mom? And everybody in the post was like, that's right, F the bio mom. And I was like, kindly, very gently, as both a bio mom and a stepmom, because some of the people in the group aren't bio moms. I'm like, as both here with girls, I was like, I kind of feel like if the bio mom is in the picture, if she's not, obviously,
right.
If the bio mom is super involved and in the picture, as the stepmom, I'm gonna default to the bio mom, just because I don't want to step on those toes. I know that's a special moment for moms and daughters, and I wouldn't want my daughter's stepmom to bust in with it. But then again, like, so just as a quick, I'm taking myself out of the story. We've already had this conversation, Maya and I. So I guess maybe, if you're a bio mom who wants to have like full ownership of the whole thing, you're having that conversation with your daughter. And because I've already talked about it with Maya. So it's kind of a non-issue, but I would want Maya's stepmom to hopefully like maybe reach out, because this isn't a thing that we could do together, be on the same page about. But anyway, so I was saying that in the post. Everyone came for me. I mean, they were laughing at like multiple people laughing at my comment, which obviously didn't feel very good. But I was also not really like, sometimes I'll get like my feelings fucking hurt on Facebook or whatever. But I really didn't. I was just kind of really surprised that no one felt the way I did, which is, should we not respect the relationship between the bio mom and the daughter and not insert ourselves as step parents? But this one girl like super came for me, and she was like, it's the girl's body. She can decide what she wants to use. If she wants to use tampons and the bio mom won't let her, I'm giving her tampons, and a parent can die angry. And I was like, okay.
Got it.
And I just felt like that was way overstepping. And so we talked about it on the air yesterday. And, I'm trying to rearrange my viewpoint where I'm like, maybe if the daughter doesn't feel safe and respected by the bio mom, who is maybe controlling and like insane, and she goes to the stepmom, maybe that's why the stepmom, it's her job to do all the things. But I just know personally, I don't think that would go well for me. And so it's that little bit. I don't know. I'm still really torn about it. Although I'm trying to see lots of different perspectives.
So we, threw that out, like, should the stepmom take a step back to the bio mom? So that was the premise of the phone calls we were getting, because when you do a radio show, there's obviously so many side tangents you could take, but when you only have 3 to 4 minutes,
you have to
narrow it down to that.
Focus.
So then this one guy, the last guy, called in.
And by the way, the lines lit up with only dudes at first.
Yes. Yeah. So weird.
I was blown away that these men were like, I have an opinion on this. And they were the first person to reach for the call. And I was just like, that's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
It was really interesting. And so then the last caller, and this is like, there's a minute left in the song, and I still have to like clean up a few things in the phone call. And I'm like, Okay, we do not have time to go down that rabbit because I saw Holly getting revved up and I was like, no.
Well, I knew we weren't going to use it. I was just like, oh, wow. This is why he called in.
And this was new. I've never heard of this before because I don't frequently think or talk about tampons or pads. So I was like, well, this is a thing?
This is why the post was made in the first place on the parenting group. So this actually was the topic of conversation, but it also is about step parents versus bio parents.
Right. Here's the phone call that did not make it on the air. All right, Chris on the east side, let's get the male's perspective. Do you think this is a situation where the stepmom should, let the bio mom take over for this sensitive conversation?
Well, I feel like they both could have input. But my main thing is, if it's something so sensitive, like a period, that's a first time thing. That's a real touchy matter. It's like you gotta let the bio mom have like at least like 60% of that. You know what I mean? Like let that say so in that matter.
Right.
It's important.
Right.
My major thing is using tampons. I'd rather a pad than a tampon. Don't put a tampon inside. Use a pad. You know what I mean? For a young girl especially, I guess it's just a lot, man. That's a lot to.
This is why I say tampons are controversial. They are, because some women feel the same way as you and some women don't. And so that's why this particular discussion took like a crazy left-hand turn, because it really came down to tampons, really. It was like, if you're the stepmom, can you introduce that? If the bio mom does not it feels like you, Chris, and doesn't want that to be the case. So
well, the stepmom is already wrong because she used tampons. All right, so she's already wrong. So at the end of the day, you just want to consult with the mom about those pads at least.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a lot. It's like you don't know how to take this on, but the bio mom is going to be 90% right, because it's like, it's a touchy subject, man. I just wouldn't.
Absolutely.
I'm happy I'm not a woman and I ain't got to deal with that stuff. But I had a young girl, my daughter. So
sadly, I had to cut him off because I had like only 30 seconds left to.
And we weren't trying to like get in. We weren't trying to like,
So walk me through this, because I've never heard of this until this phone call, that like there is a segment of people that are like the tampon is inappropriate for a young lady to use.
Very much. And that's why the post existed on the Facebook page in the first place. The mom was mad because the stepmom introduced tampons.
I'm ignorant to tampons, but what is it? It's an absorbent cotton of some sort.
Okay.
You gotta go walk the two gay men through.
We have gotta go way back.
We gotta go back. We gotta go back.
Oh my God. I almost want to go to the bathroom and get a product out. Do you want me to do this? Because remember when we talked about this with Steven, with Kramer? And he did not understand tampons at all. And
I forgot about
I had
that.
to get one, like obviously, brand new one out of the wrapper, and show him what it was. Do you remember that?
I do.
It's really rare that I come across one. So
yeah, obviously.
Sure
do you want me to go get a visual aid?
No, I was pulling up a picture.
But the picture's not going to help Kelvin like it didn't help Steven until you see it in action.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to go grab one, that's fine.
Everybody hold on. Well, hopefully we have the good kind. Hold on.
The good kind.
Yeah, there's a difference. Well,
you know what I have seen though? There's like large, extra large, like for pads.
Right. No, absolutely. People are like, what? It's interesting to me that men were so, but then I think where I have a feeling this is going to go is that straight men who have daughters feel like it's a violation of some sort. And I have a feeling that that's where this is going to go, because they don't understand exactly how it's used.
What's the ignorance?
Right.
At all.
And
I'm glad I'm not a man. I'm a man. I don't have to worry about these things, but I have a really strong opinion about it.
Right. Well,
make it make sense, girl.
And that's where it goes back to the whole, body autonomy of women, about like, abortion access and everything like that. Of like, why are we trying to comment on it? They don't have any?
No, it's so unfortunate. There were some in there yesterday.
Everybody's on the same cycle.
A whole box. I think someone stole them. Well, that's where also my water bottle got stolen from the bathroom too. Anyway.
I'm gonna investigate that.
All right, let's start from let's go back to basics.
Here, I have
back in 17.
Here we go. Let me pull up this example for you.
Okay. So when you have your period, you've got various options on how to
remedy
handle
Bleeding.
that.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm out of breath. I ran to the bathroom. Okay, so when you have a pad, it's like an absorbent, like sticky thing that sticks into your underwear, and that's how that works, right? And they come in all the small little bitty ones for light days, heavy ass ones for heavy days. They even make sometimes whole damn diapers. Like, it's a lot. So you have these different various things. Sometimes some of them have wings where you can wrap around the bottom of the panty so it don't move that as much as like one that doesn't, whatever. So you have pads. You also have tampons, which is, yes, I don't actually fully know what it's made from. But so you've got this plastic applicator, and the tampon itself is a small, almost like bullet-shaped absorbent material, like cottony or like synthetic materials that are made to be super absorbent of liquids. And so you use you insert it into your vagina, and you use the applicator it's like the applicator is kind of long, so it gets it most of the way, but it's supposed to sit up by the cervix, which is the farthest that you can go in the vagina. And so you have to push like the end of the applicator up, so it pushes it up right by the cervix. And so that way it sits there, it stays there, you don't feel it, and there's a string on the end of it that comes out so that when you are done using it, you can pull it out.
Right.
And then there's also cups, but we won't even get into that.
Oh.
So okay, I'm done breathing heavy. So
poor thing. I wish I could help explain it.
No, it's fine.
For you.
So then the problem is, and this is so foreign to me that I'm actually going to default to some of the comments. The problem is, some women, and apparently this man Chris, who the reason that I got mad is that he's like, here's what needs to happen. Why does this man know he's right about how women handle their menstrual cycle?
Right.
That's what made me mad about that conversation. Not that he was, had an opinion. Absolutely everyone can have an opinion, but it was like, he was like putting it out there with this whole chest that like, this is what's right. And I said it was. Boom. He's like, stepmom's wrong, period. Okay, not because of she didn't deflect to the bio mom, but because she used a tampon at all.
Right.
So some men, apparently, and women feel that using a tampon is inappropriate because I guess I didn't ever really think about it, but like it sort of simulates like sex or like something that a 12-year-old girl would not be typically ready to handle. You're actively putting something inside your vagina.
Right.
You're not just sticking it to your underwear.
But you don't necessarily feel it, correct?
I mean, you usually feel it, but
Okay.
it's
not the same.
Let me make it very clear. It's not sexual.
Right.
Yes, that is the same body part, but your mind is not, especially for a 12-year-old girl who has not had any sexual experience or has not had any sort of sexual assault, would associate it in any way with sex. So let me give you a personal example. So, because my mom acted super weird and never told me, by the way, why she was acting weird. When I got my period, I was 12. And so she gave me pads and that was that. But like, I knew about tampons, but she didn't even bring it up as an offer or in fact, I think the only thing she ever said was she was like, I get worse cramps when I have a tampon and we're just not doing tampons. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. And then I was at I was at my friend's house sleeping over one night, probably in like 7th or 8th grade, and I got my period and I'm like, oh no. And she's like, don't worry, I got tampons. And I was like, I don't know how to use a tampon. And she's like, oh my God, it's so easy. And it was like, yay, we're doing new fun things. So she gives me the box, which by the way, the box was the ultra super heavy box.
Oh,
I didn't know anything about tampons at all. Oh man, poor me. Anyway, so she's like, here's the directions. I'm going to wait outside the bathroom door and you just let me know if you need help. And I was like, okay. So it's like this other 13-year-old girl leading me through this. And it was a little rough, but I felt like I was like, oh, I accomplished something. And so then that was that. And I went home the next day and I'm like, Mom, I guess what? I used a tampon. And she was like, what? And I was like, I would not have said this if I thought that was going to be the reaction. So yikes. And she was just really, she was like, I really wish you would have talked to me before that. And I was like, oh, like I was very confused about what she was upset about. And even she never got into why she was upset, but she was just like, it's whatever now. It's whatever. And I was like,
well, it's already happened. What can I do?
I know. And so anyway, so she was mad even, but like I, and now I don't even like tampons now. I am not for them. I for me personally, but for years I was like a tampon only girl, and it just depends. And so, have I already spoken to my daughter about this just so she knows what options are? Yes. And this poor little girl is 10, and so she'll sometimes see a tampon commercial and she'll be like, "Not me. It couldn't be me. I am not doing that." I'm like, you know what? That's fine. She's like, "I'm not trying." No.
She's like,
nope.
Yeah,
she's not for it. We've already had this conversation, and she's not for it. And I'm like, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. But I will default to some of the comments, and maybe you can scroll up and kind of see this.
Just tell me which ones you want me to highlight.
Let me see. So I really appreciated, oh God, we're kind of way up there.
My name was misspelled. Joyelle.
So Joyelle Beresford Ruff said, because she had originally said, some moms feel a certain way about tampons and virginity. I wouldn't want someone stepping in without talking to me first. Okay. But then a little further down, she said, although I do know and have had to educate others that tampons can be used by virgins and it doesn't make them want more. And I read that and I was like, why want more? And I wish she would say a little more about that, because I have a feeling the man that called our show and some of these moms feel like if a 12-year-old newly, menstrual cycled girl uses a tampon, she's no longer a virgin. And
the uneducated.
I don't agree with that. But some people watching or listening to this right now might. And so I'm not trying to bash what you think. I just personally don't share that belief with you. And that's why I said in the post, and I said on to this man that called, I know tampons are controversial, which, to come full circle with the whole thing, I felt like I wouldn't, as a stepmom, introduce tampons to a stepdaughter because I don't know what biomom feels. And so I would default to biomom. And if biomom wasn't available and had never spoken to this girl about it, I would just offer pads first, just out of respect for the mom. But again, these women in the group came for me because they were like, you're doing that girl a disservice because it's her body. And so I'm really torn.
I think
I still don't know.
Well, I think it depends on the situation. I think if you have, a girl who, like, maybe the mom, like the bio mom, doesn't, talk about things and keeps things very private. And she's just like, I don't want to have those conversations or anything like that. And then you have always been like the open and honest, stepmother. And she comes to you being like, my mom won't help me with this issue. Help me. I feel like if that's the case, you gotta feel like you have to help the child, as long as you're not putting them in danger. But obviously, I love to say this with the caveat, as a person that doesn't have children, that doesn't have stepchildren, coming at it from that, 3,000 view, I feel like that's where I would tend to lay. But then also, if you do make that decision to help out the stepchild and then she goes back to biomom and says, well,
stepmom, help me with the tampon. I love it. I'm going to be using these. Now, you don't know what you're setting that kid up for.
Right.
Like, is she going to get yelled at? Am I now going to be...
you don't want to be involved in the drama is what I think your main concern is. Because I think at the end of the day, you want to help out whoever asks you for help.
I'm always going to...
drama.
It is. I'm always going to help out. But then you have to, like, if you're in a stepmom situation, you got to deal with these people.
Right.
It's in some capacity. And so it's a really tough call.
Joelle also said, uneducated people have told me that they believe tampons might want girls to think about sex. I've had 2 of my clients say they would never let their child use tampons because they feel that girls will think about sex more after they do use tampons. And to me, as a person who has never been with a woman, I don't understand it, but I have talked, like Holly and I have had very frank conversations, and just through doing a morning show and having frank conversations, I've learned a lot. And also listening especially since the Dobbs decision when it comes to abortion and Roe falling, and listening to podcasts and learning about the history of medicine in America and how, originally before the whole profession of being a doctor came about, it was women who would take care of women. Women would be the people that would help you with those sort of things and with childbirth. And then once the profession and study of medicine came about, men pushed women out. Yep. And so that's why they would do all these tests and things where even now when they talk about, especially like with Black women giving birth and their mortality rate, is because you have men that say, well, clearly you can handle pain because you have children. So let's do all these experiments on you and say that your body can handle this. Yeah. When it's like, but you don't know my body. You're not a woman. You've never gone through that. And so that's why I feel like you have those guys that are like, well, clearly whenever I've been with a woman, she loves the sex, so I don't want my daughter. And it's like, that's a whole, like you said, and this is what I've said, well, it's not like I've had this, or it's been a thought I've had, is sort of like with straight guys, when you get to a certain age and you have to go get your prostate exam. Are you in the office when they have that finger up there on your backside and you're like, yes, come on, Dr. Brown, yes, give it to me? No, you're like, hurry up. Do what you need to do so I can be done because this is uncomfortable.
Right.
And even for gay men who may find pleasure in the backside, they're not like sitting at the doctor like, yes,
take it in.
Give it to me. They're like, let this be done as quick as possible.
This is it's a
medical procedure.
Medical.
Right. Absolutely. And so it's like, we don't have to put sex on everything. And especially when it comes to children, you're already trying to you're trying to put an adult mind frame on a child.
Right.
And also, by the way, when girls start their period, they're going through puberty and they probably are hormonal. It's not the tampon that they're going to think about like sexual things. Correct. It's the fact that their fucking hormones are going crazy and they're like, that boy in my class is so cute. And they're not going to understand the body feelings necessarily or whatever. But I guarantee you it's not the tampon that's doing any of these things.
It's annoying to hear a man say it because it's like, you'll never have a vagina. So why do you care so much? And why do you have such a strong opinion? But then on the other side, women, why do you think that that's going, like, you have a vagina? You also know what the tampon does.
Patriarchy. Because they've been told by men that that's what women do and they believe them.
Right.
They feel safer if they can defer to men because then we all know that men can be very dangerous to women. And so they feel like they're getting some protection from men if they just go along with what men say. I mean, at the very base level of how patriarchy works. And you've got so many of these women upholding patriarchal standards because they feel safer that way. I can't fault some of them because maybe they are safer that way. I don't know who they're in relationships with. But I think that's what some of it stems from, that root cause. But yeah, like they were told that themselves by, it perpetuates through generations. So like a man told their mom that, and so the mom just repeats it to the daughter, it's just a lack of, doing your own research and digging and that kind of thing. I think ultimately it comes down to the patriarchy.
And I know, who was it that said, when will this be over? Basically just the frustration with men and, about how.
Oh, I thought you meant when will this conversation be over? And I'm like, sorry, I know this is a rough podcast.
No.
I know, I'm sorry.
Listen, I hope that this was super educational for lots of people and just understanding where people are coming from. And so that's why I was like, damn it, I really wish we had time to play his phone call and to go in depth about it, but we were up against the clock and I couldn't. So I wanted to have this conversation because I think the more times that we can shed light on issues like this, people can have a greater understanding of like, hey, men, we don't know what women go through. And so why are we continuing to try to make laws restricting their bodies and what they can do?
On what evidence and knowledge and scientific finding, not just what you personally believe.
Absolutely. So I think these sort of conversations are super, super, super important. And especially as we're getting closer to the election, because there are some things that are happening that are fucking terrifying that will affect us. So maybe you're a straight man, but honey, Are you a minority? Are you a single? I mean, there are so many things that can be affecting us.
Female friends. And
That's
Right.
because do you know
Your mother?
Right.
women and you do have to do this because people need to make it personal to themselves. Like, yes, should we all just be empathetic to others without having to put ourselves in their shoes? Yes, but that's not how human beings work most of the time. Put yourself in like your sister's shoes, your mom's, your whoever, and like try to see it from somebody else's perspective or what it would feel like to you if you were in that group, and go from there.
And I'll get political here for just a couple of seconds. You heard about that ruling in Alabama because of Roe versus Wade falling. And then the Supreme Court was like, well, let's kick it back to the states for them to decide. And then, super, super conservative people were like, well, let's let the states decide. We still want rape and incest to be, the options there. And now Alabama's like, you can't even get fucking IVF because an embryo is a child.
Yeah.
A child. So like if something happened, dear God, if you're pregnant and you like have a miscarriage, a woman could go to jail because that embryo, they consider it a person because they use the Bible.
Like this, we've gotten so
that's where the fuck
insane
we are right now. That's where we are.
And then nobody can make sense of it because it doesn't make sense.
It does not make sense. So think about that when you go to vote. And when you're like, well, I don't want to vote because of this or because of that, girl, all of our lives are dependent upon it. And then with that, and then I'll be done. Then I'll shut the fuck up.
Oh, get
because now you got me on a roll.
Oh.
Think about Handmaid's Tale, the first 2 seasons, when they would do flashbacks to how it turned to Gilead. And remember at the time in 2016, we were watching it. We were like, how crazy how like all of a sudden she's sitting there and like they say women can't use credit cards or they can't bank or they can't have jobs. And we're like, how do they let it get to that? Right now,
yeah,
you can't do IVF in Alabama. That's how the fuck you get there. And then all of a sudden,
little bits at a time.
women can't work. Women can't have a credit card. That's how you get to Gilead. All right, I'm done.
Under his eye.
Producer Kelvin, what's your social media?
May the Lord open. At Kelvin Live.
Not may the Lord open. Oh my God, that show's coming back soon. I think.
Yes,
I think
final
so.
season.
Final
Season. Holly?
Radio Holly. Radio Holly on the things.
Mine is Miguel Fuller. Any complaints, you can send it my way. If you're a conservative, let's go, girl. Let's talk about it. Let's
She's
talk about
ready.
it. I'm ready. I'm fired up.
You're
today.
fired up.
Fired up.
Gonna go find who stole the tampons at the I Heart Tampa Bay.
All right, we'll see you guys on Friday.